Hello, I'm Justin, and sitting here with my friend Lawrence. This is the second episode of this that I've done. Um, so Lawrence, like a very old friend of mine, like we used to get up to no good together back in primary school, and then got up to no good together at uni, and then you still get up to no good sometimes, like here and there
Here
now.
and then, here and then.
Yeah, here and there. So just with these mics, I forgot to tell you earlier, but best way to like talk into them is like right up here and like kind of
Right.
facing like directly into
Okay,
you.
right in my face.
Yeah, right in your
Okay,
face.
I'm
like
not
that.
used to holding objects this close to my mouth, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'll try to get used to it this time.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, what do you do for work, man? Just for the the listeners.
Yep. So, what I do for work, I'm in corporate tech sales. That's what I do. I'm in business development, and that's been a career path of mine, fairly new. I think towards the start of the year, I did study and major in marketing at university. Tried a bit of that, but thought that sales was a better fit for me and a better transition. So I currently work for a company in cybersecurity and doing corporate tech sales. I've only just started. It's quite a new gig.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I mean, hope you're settling well. But so you started off like uni, and then you went like into marketing. Like, just out of curiosity, because I don't think I've asked you this before. Why did you choose marketing, like in particular?
Right. That's a really good question. I think after high school, a lot of people knew what they wanted to do. A lot of people were like, yeah, I want to be a doctor, engineer. I want to be an accountant and look at numbers all day.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I think I wanted to do IT because I was a bit interested in gaming and, the go, like getting a new computer, and you get interested about like what processor and, what GPU you have. But that got old really quick when I decided to drop an IT subject during my senior years, and also when I started to go into the gym a lot more and working out. I thought, hey, like I enjoy going to the gym, why not do something that's related to that? I wasn't really thinking personal training, and one day when I went physio, there was an exercise physiologist there, and he was just telling me about what he does, and I gravitated towards that. Like since then, I think it was like started year 12, gravitated towards that, was working towards that, and I did started off after school doing a degree in sports and exercise science at Western Sydney. And after a year, I was just failing,
Not having
bro.
it.
Yeah, I was not having it. It was
Yeah.
definitely nothing like going to the gym, And yeah, I just had some time to think about it. And I dropped out of that and moved to a finance degree because I have an older cousin in finance, and, he's successful. So I thought might as well. Turns out that I'm not that good at, handling people's finances and stuff, and I'm not good at handling my own as well, and it just wasn't enjoyable, and I just decided to shift into marketing and committed to that ever since.
Yeah. So like a few pivots here and there, and I mean,
Quite a few pivots.
like that was the same for me, right? Like I went into uni starting with electrical, not even electrical. I started off with this one, like kind of niche one. I don't know if I've ever told you. It's called photovoltaic engineering.
I think so. I think when you told me like around our second year,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
I just didn't even know what
Yeah,
I only know
what that
civil.
is.
I only knew civil engineering. I didn't know what the
Yeah.
hell you were doing.
Like so for the listeners, like photovoltaic engineering is to do with solar panels, the design of solar panels, stuff like that. So I started off with that, and then like it's kind of unreasonable really to like expect a student in year 12 to know what they're gonna like, because one, like they haven't tried much, and then you really only know if you like something by like getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Because I think for me it was like I like the idea of being an engineer kind of thing, but when it got to like the actual work, you don't like it. So I think it's a good example of just what I would recommend to like younger people is like try out a lot of things, and we're not even that old, so I'm giving this sage advice, but I think it applies, right? It's like you're only really gonna know if you're gonna like it if you try it.
Oh yeah,
And,
100%.
I don't know. I think, and then I transferred to like electrical, and then finally computer science, and then I actually took to it quite well, and then quite enjoyed it. So yeah, then you got to marketing, and then sounds like you did marketing like for your job for a while, right?
For a little bit, yeah. I'd say like half a year, and it just wasn't something that I enjoyed, I guess. And I think just thinking about my part-time roles and casual roles during uni, a lot of them were customer facing, and I also did like retail sales as well. So I thought that, why not just make the jump into sales? Because for some odd reason, it always like landed back on my lap. I've had like job offers for like corporate sales before, but I always just turned it down. And I like the idea of, you controlling your own income, even though you're not really running your own business, right? A lot of the other practices that, you can fall into, it's all tenure based, and you get paid more the longer that you stay. Meanwhile, in sales, you control how much you make just based on how much you put out.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like sales is definitely like one of those where it feels a lot more entrepreneurial than like another job. Say like for me, like a software engineer, right? I can kind of like, if I wanted to, I can like chill out, or I can like work really, really hard. And but at the end of the day, it doesn't directly affect my like income immediately. It's not like if I'm lazy this month, I'm gonna get paid less. Or if I work really hard next month, I'll get paid more. It's like, it's more of a longer term feedback loop. Whereas in sales, it's very immediate, right? It's like, you're not making the sales this month. It's directly impacting you.
Yeah. No,
and you prefer that?
I do prefer that, I guess. Like it keeps me on my feet, and also I think it was a good change for me as well. Growing up, I wasn't really very goal orientated. I was just take stuff as it comes, but just like heading into sales like puts me into that mindset, and I guess like I've sort of developed a slight discipline of working towards a goal, and like during the time when I was working on my fitness, and I was really heavy into getting in shape, and that helped me tick off a lot of boxes and made me feel good about accomplishing goals. And I think sales as well is something that is helping me take that next step into becoming very, very goal driven and changing those years and years of bad habits I've had like growing up.
Yeah, interesting. So like, when do you reckon you would say like this kind of started, this more like goal oriented mindset? Or when did you notice that you didn't have it?
I think it was just, I guess it's not good to compare yourself, right? I always tell people not to compare yourself with others, because it takes, like, everyone has their own timeline, but you can't help but to look at other people around you. They all just have goals of like, I'm going to buy a house, car, whatever, or even just simple goals of hitting X target for work for this week. So I just felt that I was on autopilot for a while, and I just honestly did a lot of just self-reflecting and being honest with myself. A lot of people complain, and look, I used to be like that as well. I used to complain about myself and feel sorry for myself, but there's no one's gonna like give you a handout, right? Unless you're born into a rich family. You'd have to work for a lot of the things, and no one's really going to provide me anything unless I do something about it. And I guess like just stop being complacent, and I was done feeling sorry about myself, like feeling sorry for myself. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess it sounds obvious, but like actually like taking ownership for like your life, where it's like, instead of feeling like, oh, this was unfair or that was unfair, you kind of come to the point where you realize, that's not very helpful. Like maybe it was unfair. Like maybe it's maybe like you are like disadvantaged, but at the end of the day, it's like still your own life. So it's still like your responsibility to kind of like work on that. So was it like something in particular that happened, or was it more of a gradual build up? It was just mic a little bit higher.
It was also just a gradual build up, and I guess like being exposed to more red pill content as well. I'm a very, very big red pill content consumer. I'm not very far leaning, but when discovering a lot of male self-improvement channels and having myself just realize how complacent I was. Cheers, man. How complacent I was. I just thought, I was sick of just waiting for stuff to happen for me, right? Waiting for that one turning point in my life. And I think just also time with getting older and having time to reflect on how many years you wasted doing this when you could have been doing that. And there's obviously no changing the past. So I think from then on, I decided to have that gradual mindset shift.
Yeah. And, red pill, like, I feel like there's a lot of things that it can mean, because I feel like it's kind of like evolved over time. Because from what I remember, like back when I was in high school, like that was a very 4chan kind of thing.
Yeah.
which I don't think you're particularly talking about that.
No.
It's so eventually it's evolved into like like different characters. I feel like there's different flavors of that kind of thing as well. Like some people call like the manosphere.
Manosphere, yeah.
Some talk about like, but that general like area, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
I'm curious like which particular flavor that like you started off with, and then maybe how it's evolved over time.
Yeah. So how it really started was, I think at the start of 2020, this was even before COVID was announced. I thought I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, fuck, I look pretty fat. And I actually used to like work out and stuff, and I just stopped working out. Not really entirely, but I'd go once every 2 weeks to the gym and, lift that, RPE 2 and just, eat like crap and, drink a lot. I'm saying that while I'm drinking right now, but I think I just had a bit of a turning point where I'm like, I got to start tracking my macros again. And from then started to, track my macros, eat in a caloric deficit, and started just discovering more fitness bros. I mean, you'd know the odd ones like David Lade and stuff, but that I used to watch back in the days. But just knowing more of these fitness bros in this sphere, and from then on, just because they would talk about stuff like no fap and like natural ways to increase testosterone, or how to become like the most charismatic person in the room, stuff like that. And from then on, I discovered, well, actually my brother discovered, because we would watch like similar content. He discovered a whole other part of this community where it's mainly just like male self-improvement. So to name specifically, there's one guy called Hamza that my brother introduced me to over in the UK, and he's all about no fap, and like men in this generation are getting weaker and weaker, compared to guys 20, 30 years ago. And I just got like, it was a big wake up call for me as well. Like, and it was something that I took quite seriously. And, when I was like looking around me as well, like I do have some friends that, do fall into that quote unquote beta male personality. And I guess I was sick and tired of seeing that. And I don't want like my kids to be, like that, or, maybe worse.
I'm wondering what issues in particular like really like struck a nerve with you.
Yeah.
So like, with all of these self-improvement things, I feel like there's an initial thing that you're not quite happy with, like about yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of it was, I wasn't very hardworking. So like back in school, I always got the like, Justin's like a very bright kid, but he doesn't work hard. And then that was happening all the way until I had like a pretty pivotal like period in my life where I was just like, I was like very, very sad. And then like things weren't going well with uni as well. I felt like I just wasn't doing as well as I could. I still had a stable family and everything, but it was just more in terms of I just didn't know if I would be able to make anything of myself, because I was like doing really poorly with electrical engineering. So the biggest thing that I was trying to solve is just feeling like I'm not a hard worker. So that was a big core thing. Another one was how like likable I was, I guess, because back in high school, I felt like, I had friends, right? And then, but it always felt like I wasn't that likable of a person, because I probably wasn't. Like the way I would always connect with people was by, making fun of other people. Or I wasn't a very nice person, I don't think. But it wasn't like out of like because I wanted to hurt people. It was because it was the only way I really knew how to connect with people. Or if I didn't know how to like handle my emotions properly, so I would kind of lash out a little bit, and just like being cringe a little bit, right? So I think those were the two things that, in particular, like affected me a lot, like how hard working I was, and my likability. So I wonder if there's like something like that for you, like issues with yourself that particularly stuck out.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what you just said as well. I think it was a work ethic. It wasn't 100% there. And I think also when I got with my current girlfriend, Josephine, she she doesn't want to admit it, but I'd say she comes from an affluent family, and her circle, like with, as in her family circle, and like when I meet family friends and stuff, their parents, like they come from, you know, wealth, like just above average backgrounds, right? Like, because meanwhile we come from or I come from a low socioeconomic background, and it was a lot eye-opening for me to see that, you know, these people put in the hard yards, and you know, they made something so big of themselves, and that was a bit of a wake-up call for me. And along with, yeah, really just getting a bit older and just being scared that I'm not going to be able to afford a fucking house, you know, or afford, you know, the stuff that I want, and like send my kids to good schools and stuff. So that was, yeah, I think it was more so just me realizing it myself, like, and I guess like no one really said anything to me to that made me sort of like pick up my socks and like, you know, start getting to work. But I think it was just me realizing it myself, and that's really it. Because I agree with you as well. Like I did get those comments from teachers as well. It's like, oh, you know, like you're just not trying hard enough. You know, it's like you can definitely do better. And I knew myself as well that I'm not dumb, right? And I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I just knew that I'm capable. But it's just always the discipline and commitment to things that I'm unable to do.
Absolutely. I think, correct me if my timeline is quite wrong, but so when we first for context, we went to the same primary school, and we would like, there was a trio of us, and then there's like another guy, and then we were just like menaces, like in primary school.
Yes.
But then like we got up to like a lot of like we just got to a lot of things.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. But then we in particular went to different high schools. So I didn't speak to you for like 6-7 years. All of like high school and even like first year of uni.
Mm-hmm.
So we reconnected second year of uni.
Yeah.
And then like we got along like really, really well.
Yeah.
And then I think I had a bit of a period where like I just needed to like be myself, you know, be by myself, like that same it was that same period where I was just trying to like figure out like, all right, what's going on in my life. I just needed to like buckle down for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we stopped hanging out for a while,
Yes,
for a little
yes,
bit, or as much.
you're right.
Like, so I'm guessing like that was when it kind of happened, because prior to that, I feel like we didn't really have these kinds of talks. Like neither of us were really, we didn't really care that much.
Yeah, exactly.
About like our career and like, because we were a bit younger as well. We just wanted to like party all day.
Still do.
So yeah, like something happened in between.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it was kind of in that period where you kind of started thinking more about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the timeline of things, right? Because then, like, yeah, we would hang out like very regularly, sometimes even like every week, when we rekindled after like years and years of not seeing each other. And yeah, we kind of like dropped off. I don't know why, but I like, you just kind of sort of explained why. But honestly, during that period, I was still like just living on autopilot as well for a good half of that. And I guess maybe like a good half a year before we started, you know, hanging out regularly again, and when everything was all good with you, then I guess I slowly started having those thoughts and realizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Then I guess something that leads like well into this is like, who are your heroes? So like, who do you like look to for like advice? Who do you look to for, you know, to just model like your life a little bit?
Yeah.
And this can be people in person, like that you know in real life.
Yeah.
For me personally, I actually don't have that many role models that I know in person. All of my like role models are like people I see like on the internet.
Yeah.
And I feel, you know, like it can go either way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like I'll start off with the ones that I know, I guess. Like my dad is definitely a big one. I don't really go to him for like actual advice, right? Because he's like old. But in terms of looking up to him, I look up to him for his work ethic. Because you know, our parents were both immigrants, right? Like he came over with like barely anything, and he was able to, you know, like have kids, support us, and like give us a life that's, you know, not like terrible. And like I had a good upbringing, even though we weren't we weren't rich or anything. We never had to worry about like what our next meal was. Like it's not funny, but like, you know, some people do go through that. And like, even though we weren't rich, like my parents were earning minimum wage, it was, you know, we never had to worry about, you know, what next when the next meal is, and, you know, when and he would take us on holidays here and then. So I think his work ethic is what I still look up to. Like, he's always the type of guy that if you give him a task, or if he promises that he'll do something, he'll do it, and he'll do it 110%. And if he, at the end of the day, if he can't do it, he'll figure out how to by, you know, researching or asking other people. And then, you know, he will never back down on a task unless it's like literally impossible, right? And he's one person that I look up to for work ethic. It's a shame that I don't have, you know, I'm not equal in terms of the amount of work ethic he has. It's probably just a different upbringing, or whatever, but that's someone that I look up to.
Different people. Like,
yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Have you heard of the Big Five personality model?
No, can you tell me a bit more?
Yeah. So it's the personality model that is generally more used in psychology, because as opposed to something like Myers-Briggs, Big Five is very statistically driven.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they like did a big survey of how people describe themselves, and then they kind of like clustered it. They did something called factor analysis,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of they arrived like 5 groups of like traits that tended to like arise together. And people fall on like different spectrums like on here, and like it's not good to think about it as like one, like being high on this is better than being low on it,
Mm-hmm.
because if one was always better, it would, like, we would all have evolved to have that. So like the reason we have this variance is just because we're better adapted to like different tasks.
Right, okay.
So it sounds like your dad is like, there's one trait called conscientiousness, which is basically how hard working you are, how like easily can you just get down to work and like just like do things. But people with high conscientiousness, like they're like that. They just can get down to work very easily.
Yeah.
But you know, maybe that's not what you should do,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes it's better to be a bit more like, I don't really want to just dive into one thing. I just want to like do other things, or like maybe think about it a bit more before I dive in. So like, so would you say you're like a bit lower on that scale than your dad?
Definitely. But while we're on this topic, can you tell me a bit more about what would be like people with a high conscientiousness, right? When they sit high on that scale, is it like inversely related with another factor? Like, do they tend to have a lower something else? Like, do you know that? Do you know if that's the case?
So the point of these 5 different traits is that they're completely independent of each other.
Right. Okay.
Like, they're generally independent.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I think conscientiousness is slightly correlated with like with how much money you make.
Right.
Because
Okay.
like it makes sense, right? Like,
100%.
Like generally, if you can just not procrastinate, if you can just get down to work, then you'll probably make more money. You'll do better in your studies, particularly. So I think people with high conscientiousness are really good in that constrained environment of school, where it's like, you just gotta like do the work, you just gotta study, and then you do well.
Yep.
So I think they do particularly well with that, as opposed to something where it's like entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a lot of different paths that you can go down, so you may not necessarily just want to spend all your time doing this one thing.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that makes sense. So it's like, when you put them in like sort of wishy-washy environments where there's no real guidelines, it can get a bit like...
It may not work.
Yeah,
as
right.
well, because they might just like stick to their first strategy as opposed to like getting a bit bored and then doing something else.
Yeah.
Which maybe you want to do
Yeah.
like, if you're an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, well, I agree with that. Like, I do think, my dad would probably have a high conscientiousness.
Conscientiousness.
Fuck, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah. Yeah. But
that was a quick aside. So you look up to your dad in that regard.
In that
terms
regard,
of how
for sure.
hardworking he is.
Hardworking, yeah. And I think
Just a little bit high.
anyone else really, like, in real life, I mean, I do come to you for advice here and then, so like I do look up to you as well. I do, like, there are aspects that I do look up to you for, and I do think you're really smart and you have like a lot to offer on like a lot of different topics, and every time I speak to you I always learn something new. and I'm able to share that conversation with other people and build on my conversations, right? Because I feel like you're very technical. I do like learning about technical stuff, but I just feel like I can't grasp concepts as effectively as you, and you do a good way of like dumbing shit down for me and just and just expanding my knowledge on things. So as much as we're probably both kind of like bad influences on each other and egging on each other to like be degenerate sometimes and drink and roast other people and stuff, but there is definitely a good part of that our relationship where we just sort of bounce ideas off each other, and I do feel like I get smarter a little bit every time I speak to you.
I appreciate that, right?
Yeah, all good.
And I think it goes both ways. I think a lot of times in terms of like how I interact with people socially, I look to you as like someone I see as very charismatic. I know like you mentioned that it's something that you still think about sometimes, where it's like, oh, I want to be more charismatic. But just like for me personally, the people I know in real life, you can speak to strangers very easily, or anytime I introduce you to a new group of people, you will never be like awkward or anything. You can get along with basically anyone like very, very easily, which is amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. I try to.
Yeah. So yeah, any other people that you look up to?
Any other people, like, we both, like, this is probably not a big role model anymore, but was in terms of me being consistent at the gym. I'm sure you know who it is. It's Sush, the co-host of Mogcast, and it's probably like I actually still think he's probably one of my big, let's say, like, online role models, right? Like when I first started working out again in like 2020, I was doing calisthenics only because the gyms were closed, and after getting back into lifting weights again, I just stumbled across this guy's video and about like bird watching, where he's actually like going to look for chicks, like bird watching and stuff, and all this like funny stuff, and and it was just like fusing his immature comedy or sense of humor with the gym, and he looks sick, and just that really resonated with me for some odd reason. I guess like sort of similar to like a Ziz disciple. I guess that was like the best way to describe him, or a John Skywalker disciple. And honestly, funny enough, it's like I used to make fun of people who bought like Kylie Jenner's lipsticks because Kylie Jenner wore it, or the people who are like, oh yeah, Kanye West wore this, so I'm gonna go get like Yeezys and that, or like people who just fall into the influencer trap and just buy stuff based on what people say. But then for the first time in my life, or maybe for the first time in my life, I was influenced very heavily by this Sush guy, right? And he was a big like contributing factor to me adhering to my fitness program and continuously going to the gym, and that just had like a snowball effect of me like diving into the realm of like supplements and looking at like different like nootropic compounds. And it's just, I think he's definitely a big factor, and because he's young and he's got a sick physique, his sense of humor is similar to mine, and I just like laugh every time I see his stuff. And I think you also have that same sense of humor where we like roasting people and stuff as well.
Yeah, we do.
And in a funny way. Doesn't sound the best, right, on camera right now, but it's just something that he did.
If they saw, they would laugh.
They would laugh. Exactly. Yeah. So we're not dickheads, but that's what that's what I liked most about him. And yeah, he definitely was a big contributing factor to me adhering to like just a lot of different things in my life, not just fitness.
Yeah. So is it like, it sounds like in particular you gravitated towards him because like I like him as a person, but I don't think it's like the same, quite the same. And I think maybe it's like, it feels like you guys are kind of cut from the same cloth a little bit, but it's just, you see it's like someone who's so similar in like a lot of ways, same humor, same like, same values, but like, he's so hardworking. He's like successful in these like, different areas. Is it kind of like that?
Oh yeah, like that, just like that. So seeing him build up his like little empire, going from driving a crappy like Ford Focus to driving a Lamborghini Urus, like watching that journey and seeing like someone that's like, I guess, similar age to us, right, and achieve all that.
Yeah, even younger in fact.
Like even actually, he's even younger. I lied. He's like 2-3 years younger. So, and yeah, like seeing that journey, it was just so, I guess, inspiring. And like, someone like with that sort of sense of humor as well was like made me relate even more. So I felt like a lot of these like YouTubers, they're a bit too corny and cheesy with the humor, and it's a bit cringe. Meanwhile, this guy's like no filter, he doesn't give a crap, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
I know. So like, out of like, so like, Sush is like sponsored by like More Plates, More Dates.
Gorilla Mind.
Yeah, Gorilla Mind.
Yeah.
Which he owns.
Yeah.
So I think for me in particular, I relate a bit more with like Derek.
Mm-hmm.
I still wouldn't say he's quite like. I can tell you like my heroes later on,
Mm-hmm.
but I relate more to Derek, and like for like the supplement and like nootropics kind of advice,
Mm-hmm.
I'll like go to him first nowadays. And I think it's because like Derek is a bit of a nerd, to be honest. He likes
is.
intellectualizing things, but he's still like he's still very chill guy, still very like confident, still very like. What I think in particular I really like about him is that if he decides like, okay, he wants something, he'll just like, I'll just do it. Like he'll take the step to, he doesn't let like social pressures slow him down at all,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I really relate to, because I think a lot of the wins in my life have come from just throwing myself in the deep end in one regard of just disregarding like, oh, what will people think of me?
Yeah.
And just like dive into it, even if it's like a bit cringe. So like, for example, when I first like left high school, I was like, I want to make more friends. I want to be like just better with people in general. So I would go like read books and stuff and like listen to podcasts about, how to be more likable. Like read like how to win friends and influence people, listen to podcasts about how to become more charismatic. And I think like, especially like at that age, a lot of people would think like, that's cringe, bro. Like you can't make friends kind of thing. But I think it was like that like pattern of thought where it's like, I have a problem, I'm just going to try solve it. Right?
Yeah.
Which has led me to like have like some of the successes that I've had. So I relate to Derek a lot.
Yeah.
More Dates.
Yeah. No, Derek's good. Like he's definitely very smart, and I've like learned so much about like he's kickstarted my curiosity about supplements as well, because I found out about Derek through Sush, right? And then I can definitely see that like you having a lot of similarities. Like you're definitely quite confident. Like he used to, it's called More Plates, More Dates, for fuck's sakes, you it's like you go to the gym and get chicks, so so then I can definitely see that, and I know I can see why you relate to him a lot.
I think one thing I wanted to talk to you about is that I don't know how recent of a thing it is, because you definitely didn't do it as much. You didn't do it at all when we used to hang out a few years ago, like when we first reconnected. But you talk to strangers very often nowadays. As well, like just on the train, you'll start a conversation with someone, or if we're at a bar or anywhere really. I noticed. It's not. I noticed. Like it's very clear. Like you just walk up to someone and just start a conversation. Banter with them a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that something that was there something that was there a point where you just decided to start doing that, just speak to that a little bit?
That's actually very funny, because I actually don't notice it.
Yeah.
I actually don't notice
Really?
myself doing that more. So
What are you talking about, bro?
I don't know. Like I'm just like trying to do a bit of reflecting, but
When we went to Melbourne, you were just talking to randoms like all the time.
was I?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah. Partially just because we were in like those environments where it's like, let's say it's at a club or a bar where it's like you're sort of kind of like meant to be talking to randoms,
No,
I guess.
it wasn't even. You were like talking to people on the train.
Oh, yeah. No, that was different. No, they talked to me, bro.
What
They
do you
talked to
mean?
me. Because just to give you a bit of context, when we went to Carnival, that's why I went down to Melbourne, I decided to rock up with a stripy Nautica polo that my girlfriend hated, because I just wanted to look like
She did
a
hate that.
lad,
Yeah.
but what they call SJs nowadays. I wanted to look like a lad, so I wore Nautica polo shorts and some. I didn't wear my TNs, but I wore another pair of Nike shoes, and then like I had the collar up, straight from Campbelltown, and people were just like, "You look very suspicious," and I'm like, "Yeah, I am
Thank you.
suspicious. Yeah, thank you. I'm very
Right.
suspicious." So I think that was the case, but other than that, like if I want to do a bit of reflecting, I guess it's like something that I always was afraid of. Like when it came to like speaking to strangers, I always had a bit of social anxiety in terms of that. And I guess maybe I just subconsciously wanted to improve myself. So
Yeah.
after watching so much Red Pill content that I
Yeah.
just don't even notice it. So maybe there's just an influence from all
Yeah.
those, all that content that I was consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, I think for me, it's definitely something that I want to work on. But, you know, small steps. It's like not the idea of just like starting a conversation with someone, like just randomly on the street. It terrifies me for some reason.
Yeah.
But like,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it probably shouldn't, honestly. Like,
Really? Yeah.
because there's no ill intention. Like,
Yeah.
And like, I know I'm not a weirdo. I know
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get anything out of them.
Yeah.
But it still terrifies me, which signals to me that, you know, something's not right. I feel like you should be able to just like, you know, in those movies, those American movies where people just like, howdy neighbor, like, they're just like, talking to you, like they're just being nice, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I don't think poorly of them for that, right? I don't
Yeah.
think, oh, this guy's creepy, like,
Yeah.
because he's like asked how my
Yeah.
day was.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, I think, is just insecurity or
Yeah.
like social anxiety.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that
Yeah.
I find
Right.
interesting.
Well, yeah, I take back what I just said. I said it should. Like, I think I should have said, like, you know, I can imagine. But that's what I really meant. And also to extend on like your statement, it was just, I feel just as like coming up from like growing up with like traditional Asian parents or just Asian household, you just sort of taught to like mind your own business, right?
Yeah,
Like, put your head down, work, you know, make money, and just care about yourself, right? Like, don't worry about, you know, everyone else, and mind your own business. Like, even like sometimes when like crimes are committed in the Asian community, like they don't really want to call the cops because, you know, you just want to like deal with it within your own community, or you know don't really want to, you know, cause a scene in that. So I think that's probably it, because we grew up in like, you know, we went to primary school and high school with
Very Asian. Like,
very Asian. It was like
yeah.
99% Asian,
Yeah.
you know. So that's maybe a bit of influence of that, but also in general, like no matter where you are in the world, I feel like just approaching strangers are very taboo because of just you can't trust anyone nowadays with like, you know, people scamming and all that. So it's just so weird to go up to someone and just talk to someone, I guess. But you know, it's like, yeah, it takes a lot of like effort too. But I think when you end up doing it and you like mastered that skill, right? I'm not saying I've mastered it, but I'm just imagining what it would feel like. But I feel like if you master that skill, it's, you know, something that you'll feel very good about.
And I mean, like, I feel like sales is kind of tangential to that, like, because you're basically doing the same thing. I guess like the fear is always the fear of rejection, right?
Yeah.
Someone will just like say, "What the fuck are you talking to me? Like,
Yeah.
fuck off," kind of thing, right? And I guess there's always that risk of rejection with like, sales, especially if it's like outbound, right? Like if you're cold calling someone or if you're approaching someone for those kinds of sales.
Yeah.
As opposed to like posts, I don't know what it's called, but like account management as opposed to like outbound sales.
Yep.
Yeah, like you're always dealing with that like fear of rejection, and I think really internalizing the fact that rejection is okay is very tough, but also a bit of a superpower, I think, because, you know, then you take more chances, and then you'll just get what you want more often.
Yeah, like it's just exposure therapy, really. Like if you get burnt like 100 times, you're not gonna feel like you've just been burnt for the first time on the 101st time, you know. So it's like how you react the first time to the 100th time would be completely different. And you know, the more you expose yourself at something, the better you get at it, right? Like I'm sure, like correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you were terrible at coding when you first started coding, right? And then now, like I don't know how good you are, but you know, I assume, you know, you'd be pretty good compared to you know, day one.
Much better than day one. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I think something that I've like been thinking about more and more nowadays as well is there's a quote from like the Book of Five Rings or something, but not that I've read it, but I think it's a good quote. It's like, once you master one thing, like you like master everything, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And basically what it's saying is that once you get like really deep into like one particular skill in general, you kind of start seeing the same patterns in other areas. Like the same like patterns of adversity happen, and then you can just more easily get better at those. So like one thing I've found is that So for me, one thing that I've dived really deep into is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like I just took to it really well.
Yes.
And I think the reason why I enjoy it so much is that its failure is something that I don't mind and that I in fact enjoy. And I think that's like a good metric actually to see how suited you are for like a particular area. Is how well you can like handle the failure. So when I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right, you just get crushed. So for people who don't know, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like it's a form of grappling. So no punches or anything. It's all just like submission holds, stuff like that. And for me, I don't mind getting crushed like by people. Like I don't feel hurt because like I've always been like a small person.
Yeah.
I'm not like huge or anything. So I've never had an ego in terms of like I could beat anyone in a fight or anything. So being crushed felt par for the course for me, but it was like the fact that seeing that, you know, the more often I put myself out there, the more often I take risks, try new things, but I still get crushed, but you learn faster that way. And I think nowadays, a lot of times when I will approach a new skill, I will always relate it back to, how would I have handled this situation like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when your boss gets in the way of, you know, your project, you're like, fuck, how can I put this guy in a rear naked choke?
Yeah, put him in
coding
rear
terms.
naked choke. Yeah, exactly.
Send him a virus, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I wonder if there's something like that for you. Something where it's like you've gone like really deep in that area, and now you kind of use the lessons learned there in like other areas of your life.
I guess like maybe just like going to the gym, really. Like, you know, those.
That's a big one. Right?
Yeah, like going to the gym, and it just has like such a big effect on the rest of your life. Like, I'm not saying I'm the most disciplined person. I'm not like a monk, right? But when it comes to like adhering to a schedule and seeing, you know, just yourself going through weeks and weeks of, you know, completing a program, or like actually going to the gym when you're like super hungover and you've just vomited like 2 hours before due to drinking too much, right? And being able to still get yourself there. Obviously, there are times where you shouldn't go, right? It'll do more harm than good. But, you know, when you feel like you should be able to work out, then, you know, still dragging yourself to the gym and doing that, I guess has helped with me adhering to you know, tasks and stuff. But it's still a working journey for me.
Gym. Do you feel like one of the biggest lessons for me from gym was the idea of progressive overload?
Yeah.
So it's like, no, you shouldn't throw yourself in the deep end and try to lift 100 kilos, like bench 100 kilos when like you're nowhere near that. You're just going to hurt yourself. You also shouldn't take it easy too much. It's like every single time it's just consistently about improve a little bit.
Yes.
Every single time just improve a little bit. And that's kind of the fundamental idea of like of going to the gym. There's not much else to it, in my opinion. Gym is just all about progressive overload. Yeah, and it teaches that lesson very, very well. And I think it's a lesson that applies to everything in your life, right? Even if you're studying, it's all about, you know, I'll just push myself a little bit more this time. Maybe I'll study a little bit longer, or like do like one more question or whatever. And that's like a good pattern to have.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, the funny thing, right, is I think there was a high school teacher or a tutor teacher, I don't remember, who told me that I don't expect you to get, you know, 90% plus every time, right? Even if you were to get 43% on your first exam, the next time I just want you to get, you know, at least, you know, 1% better, so 44%, and then she or he would be happy. I don't remember who told me this, but I never freaking took it seriously, until I went to the gym. It's just like, as long as, you know, I get this extra rep, or as long as I slow down the negative for a second for the same weight next week, you know, it's good. I'm improving, you know. So like it took a lot for me to learn that I shouldn't expect to have these big increments every time, right? Like I shouldn't expect 90% next time when I get, you know, 43% the first time. I mean, it'll be good and it can happen, but, you know, that's not how it works for most people.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I guess nowadays, like what general topics like float around your mind? I feel like at any one time there's about like six to eight topics, I want to say, that float around, like that you just kind of come back to.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if like what are those for you right now? Is it career? Is it family, or is it gym, like, or another hobby?
Probably career, because I did start a new job about like 2 weeks ago. So that's filled up most of my time at the moment, along with just self-improvement, really, and being more organized. I was always very disorganized as a person. Like, it'll be like very hard for me to like organize my time and just organize my space in general. So I think self-improvement would be the biggest focus right now, which would include career and just organization and everything.
Definitely. So self-improvement, any areas in particular? So you say like career, maybe we can start with that. Like, how are you like looking to improve?
So first thing would just be being familiar with like the product and everything, product knowledge, but that's all sort of towards the start. But I think just far out, mate, too much to drink.
Too much to drink already.
But I'll wait for Justin to come back. Yeah, but I think just for me would be, I don't know this. I think the easiest answer to say is just like that I've been holding back would be just to make more money, really.
Yeah.
Because like as simple as that sounds, or as materialistic as it sounds, like I didn't want to say it, but I feel like it's just I just want to make more money, and I just want to work.
Money's important.
Yeah, money's important, definitely. And I think just as a young kid, I was taught the value of money. Like I was taught the value of money at a very early age, right? And I want to give back to my parents for what they've sacrificed for me, and just having money to play around with, and enjoy my life while I'm still kind of young. Yeah.
What skills in particular do you think are like important for you to improve for your role or for your career?
For me, I think right now a weak point would be my listening skills, active listening skills. So man, like we can get into this later, but then we put this out there because I suffer from ADHD, and then when it comes to topics that I'm not interested about, or when it comes to talking to like a prospect or whatever, and they're just like going off on a tangent, or they're just talking about stuff, sometimes I just like blank out and go like, yep, and just and snap back into the current moment, and I was like, fuck, what did they say for the past 30 seconds? So active listening skills, and like showing that I am attentive, and actually being attentive, and using what they've told me to have a rebuttal or a pitch, right? So that's the biggest part for me. And also one thing I've been consciously spending more time on as well would be not butting in as much, because I had this tendency to butt in way too much during conversations, and I've found that that's not the best way to have conversations. And also when it was on the flip side, when it happened to me, I was speaking to some bloke one time, and he was just telling me interrupting me after every 3 words. I'm like, what the heck, man, I don't want to speak to you anymore,
yeah. Okay, so active listening, and very much those soft skills, right? Because, I mean, sales is all soft skills, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. And how do you think, what's the best way to go about improving those?
Well, best way for me would be being mindfulness training, so meditation. That's helped me a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, being mindful and mindful of my thoughts, and being in the moment opposed to thinking about other random shit. Along with something that's helped me would be Toastmasters. So
I remember.
That's a big part of my life. Still is I still attend meetings here and then.
Yeah.
And that was very good for me, since you're not only speaking, sometimes you're on the flip side and you're evaluating. Right?
Yeah.
So if I have the pressure of evaluating someone for their 7-minute speech, and I rock up and just say, yeah, Justin's speech was awesome, thank you. I'd look like I'd look pretty stupid up there, right? And so that's helped me a lot with my.
I'm very curious. So to me, when I first when you first told me about it, it felt very out of left field for me. When you said oh yeah, I joined Toastmasters.
Mhm.
But yeah, like how did you get started with it? Because my dad does Toastmasters, or he used to do Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very, very old person thing to do.
It is, yeah.
I think the club that I go to, like, I'm grateful that we actually have a good majority of people that attend are under 30.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying being old is a bad thing, but when I say old and I look at other clubs, I'm talking like 65, 70. One guy we had a area competition for speeches. One guy was doing a speech about how he fought in the World War. So that's how old he gets. And we just can't relate to that. So
Yeah.
so that's why, okay, yeah, I'm grateful that I attend a club that's, quite young and vibrant. It's a cheeky little plug if you guys want to attend. It's at Caraval Toastmasters at Caraval Diggers, 7 p.m. every second, third, and fifth Thursday. But how I got started really was I was actually interviewing for roles at the start of 2021 after university, and I was interviewing at maybe 5-6 different places, and one recruiter asked me what my biggest, like, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, the classic interview question, right? And obviously I fluffed myself up for like, my strengths is like I'm very hardworking, I'm whatever, and then my weaknesses is always so hard, like I don't know what to say, but I said, I need to work on my public speaking and presentation skills. And she was just like, oh yeah, you should do Toastmasters. You check out Toastmasters. And I was like, yeah, well, what's that? And she told me a little bit about it, and I decided to just search it up because I saw the name like during uni and stuff. I'd see it here and then, but I never really knew what it was about. At one point, I took it quite literally. I was like, you go there, eat toast,
yeah.
It might be like, it's probably like a breakfast club or something like that. You go there, get some butter and Vegemite,
Not this one.
Yeah, not this one, exactly.
Not worthy of a master.
Yeah.
Right.
See, exactly. So, very funny. And decided to do a bit of research. I'm like, oh, this would be good for me. There's one in like the local area.
Yeah.
And I rocked up with my brother, who I felt needed something like that, and another mate of mine who I felt could gain something out of it, right? So we just attended as guests, and from then on I just kept on going and ended up signing up as a member, and then moving on to becoming an executive there at that club. So I was looking after the memberships there, so vice president of memberships.
Wow, yeah.
To be honest, in hindsight, I probably didn't do that much. I was pretty crap at my job, not gonna lie. But also part of it was due to like half of my membership tenure there. Part of my executive tenure there, it was during lockdowns, so I couldn't really connect with members that much. So I mean, you could, but I couldn't really talk to them in real life and have a good conversation. I'd have to message the new guests on Zoom and be that creepy guy, like, hey, how you doing, right?
Right, yeah.
So that's how I really got started, and I still go to meetings here and then when I'm available. Yeah.
So like you do speeches like at Toastmasters, right? Like, have you learned anything in particular about being a better public speaker? Like, if someone's just getting into it now, what's like your number one tip?
Number one tip is slowing down your speech, right? I don't I can't speak for everyone, but I tend to speak quite fast. And what Toastmasters has helped me realize is that I speak even faster when I'm nervous. I ended up just speaking on 2 to 3 times speed, right, depending on how nervous I am. And I was very nervous getting in front of a bunch, like 30 randoms and just speaking.
Yeah,
so that like when people were evaluating me, like, oh, you noticed that when you weren't as confident, you started speaking a lot faster. And also I had a very big build up of filler words like ahs, that stuff like that. Like I still do it here and then, but I've been a lot more conscious about it, because there was a role called the and counter that counts filler words, right? And I remember the second or third time I was there, I racked up about 30 something filler words.
That's a high score.
That's a high score, a new high score, So I decided to become a bit more conscious about it and taking time when speaking and utilizing pauses instead of using these, ahs and these other filler words that people use.
And how well do you think that translates like public speaking to like, say, like your job, like sales? Like, does it transfer at all?
Yeah, it definitely does. Definitely does. And well, the public speaking part, yes. Well, it helps with like presenting. I used to be a very nervous presenter, so speaking in front of people, I like get really sweaty. I'm a very heavy head sweater as well, so you'll notice it right away. Like if the room was very bright, then my head will be like so shiny. You'll be able to see a future from it, and that's helped me in that aspect in terms of presenting, and I guess like slowing down my speech as well when talking to prospects. Like I might not be the most like technologically savvy or may not know the most info at a technical level, and I tend to just like mask it by speaking faster, but then I've realized that I should just slow it down, and that way I appear a lot more confident. And one part of Toastmasters specifically that has translated very, very well over to sales would be table topics. So have you ever done table topics? So
No, what's that?
what it is that like there's a table topics master, and they write, like 10 questions, and they would go up to the podium or behind the lectern, and they'll be like, oh, tell me about a time that you embarrassed yourself, and and a lot of people saw and won't leave you alone, right? And this question goes to Justin, and you're like, crap, I've only got like 5 seconds from when I walk from my seat to the stage to actually answer it, right?
Yeah.
So it helped me like think on my feet a lot more.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So doing that's helped me with thinking on my feet and being a lot more like nimble.
I think that's one area in particular that like I feel like I'm quite weak at, like thinking on my feet. Like how do you do that? Like have you found is it just practice? I'd imagine it's probably that it.
For me, it's just practice, really. Like practice and exposure therapy, like we just spoke about earlier, and just being more confident about yourself. Yeah, there's like if even though if it's not the case, right? Like I don't think anyone should think that they're better than someone else, right? You shouldn't be condescending people, but sometimes you sort of need to have that mindset where you're like, yeah, this guy's nothing. I'm better than him, and then you just end up being more confident, right? As harsh as it sounds, as douchebag as it sounds, sometimes it's needed for those situations where you're like, this guy's nothing,
Yeah.
And then you can and you start being more confident about yourself. You got to G yourself up sometimes, right?
Yeah, right.
And so combination of that, and also like you said earlier, right? You shouldn't be scared of approaching people, right? Because people are just gonna forget about it. Right, everyone has problems, and everyone's gonna be thinking about their own problems 5 minutes later. So, just don't worry about that too much. And this guy's probably gonna forget about it like later on even if you do stuff up. And that mindset and mentality has helped me remove a filter and just express stuff a lot more efficiently, and has helped with my verbal fluency as well.
Yeah, I always feel that's a big one, right? That filter that you have of they won't be interested in what I'm saying, or like blah blah blah. Is like when I'm like very comfortable with someone, like say like you or like my housemates. I don't care. I just say whatever like just comes to mind, and then it's all good. But if it's like in a situation where I'm nervous, where it's like it's a new person, or it's like a girl that I'm like I'm kind of interested, right? It's like it's kind of that like filter that comes in where it's like I blank out a little bit. And I think like just being able to like bridge that gap is something that I think it's hard, but you just got to practice and like eventually do it.
100%.
That's one of the reasons why I decided to do like this new podcast series. So like I think like I do a podcast with Cal.
Yeah, I know.
Like for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
But the tough thing there, like I can't really practice my ability to think on my feet. It's because he's too good of a conversationalist. Right? If there's an awkward pause, boom, he'll jump in and like tell like an amazing story kind of thing. Whereas, so like I'm trying to like, have conversations with like different people and like practice that.
Alright, I'm very ready.
All right, we're back from a quick bathroom break.
Yes.
Cheers, Lawrence.
Cheers, bro. What are your thoughts on the drink of choice for today?
Vodka soda. It's not bad. It's very easy to drink.
It's not bad.
It's it doesn't feel as bloaty as beer. Flavor's like not too bad. I like it. I would buy it again.
No,
I like it better than White Claw. Like, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's kind of on par with White Claw. I actually don't mind White Claw, to be honest. And
To me, this tastes a bit fuller than White Claw. Like White Claw tastes very watered down. In my
okay,
opinion.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit more flavoursome than White Claw, and yeah, it's definitely worth us not taping the brand. So you know,
We were talking about this earlier,
Yeah.
right? It's like because my this like podcast series is so
Yeah.
like, the ad space is so like in demand.
exactly,
We can't afford to be giving free advertising.
exactly,
to,
exactly,
to this brand.
Yeah, well, vodka soda, you get a free one just for today. Or
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
maybe next time as well if we do
Yeah,
buy you again.
lucky brand.
Exactly.
I feel like for some reason, whenever we hang out,
Yeah.
it's when I drink the most. Like something about it. I don't know. What do you think?
Right. You're making me seem like a bad guy here. So I'm feeling very
attacked.
uncomfortable. And yeah. And I don't like your body language right
Very true. Very true.
But I don't know, hey, like it's pretty weird. But, look, like obviously when we were young, we weren't drinking. But when we had that time period, that time skip, that Naruto time skip, from in between primary school to like university, and when we first like actually saw each other again, right? I still remember like perfectly that like we both the first saw each other at a high school reunion, primary school reunion, organized with some girl from our primary school, and then like my mate Norman and I, we came late because we had something on prior, and I just walked into the karaoke room at K Square, and the first person I saw was you. I was like, what the heck, bro? And it's just like, I haven't seen you in literally, let's say that was like 2016, so it was like 8 years, and I saw you. I was like, what the heck? And I knew it was you, but like you look so fucking different, bro, from back then. And then I was just, and then you were like pretty drunk, right? Yeah, you were pretty drunk, probably. And then like I was like kind of sober, and then like as time progressed, I got a bit drunk. So maybe the first time we rekindled, we were both happened to be intoxicated. So
Yeah.
and it just feels right from there. But
I think we just enjoy alcohol quite a bit. I don't think we're alcoholics per se, but I feel like
that's what all alcoholics say. Sorry to interrupt, but that's what all alcoholics say. I can quit any time, it's all good. I can put down the bottle any time.
It's not a problem. I don't know. I feel like a lot of times like people are very sensible with like the amount they drink. They drink, they have enough,
Yeah.
but then like it's not the right time to drink kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
I do feel that though. Like just to not seem fake at all. Like I do have a hard time turning down a drink. I don't know if that's being called an alcoholic or not, but I feel like I've definitely slowed down quite a lot on the amount that the amount of abuse that I put my body through. But I think we just both enjoy having a drink, and I'm really curious as well in terms of trying new things. So which is kind of bad but kind of good, right? Like I'm always curious. Oh, that new bottle of like vodka looks good. That new flavor of whatever looks pretty good. Let's try it. And then I feel like you're quite the same as well. And it's just like sometimes you're an instigator. I think like to be fair, a lot of the times I instigate, and then we just end up in that rabbit hole. I wouldn't say it's like a bad thing. I mean, sometimes like it's a bit unnecessary, but it's definitely not bad. Like we haven't really looked back and be like. We haven't looked back and reflected and be like, oh, that was a waste of time.
I'm gonna be honest as well. I feel like a lot of times for me, at least, it's like the novelty of it.
Yeah.
Like, normally, like for other people, like they would not be down, but like because I know you'd be down.
Yeah.
Like it's like let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, it doesn't take much to convince me.
Yeah. Anyway, before they think we have alcohol problems.
Oh, exactly.
I was curious to hear, what's your like social circles look like nowadays? So if you were to kind of give me like a rough map of like the people you spend time with.
Yeah. So nowadays would be like some people from high school, and I think like a lot of my friends, I'm still friends with a lot of people from high school, right? And also like T and Norman, like one of my like closer friends that we would go out like nearly every week.
I would consider that your like main high school group, and like even like your main like group.
Yeah,
nowadays, right?
exactly, yeah. And yeah, a few other boys from high school as well. And yeah, like I'd say like you as well. You're
We
definitely a
spend a
very
fair amount of time
fair amount
together.
of time together. Like, I may as well, move in, like buy me another pillow and we'll sleep together. But
Yeah. Spare room.
yeah, exactly. I wanted to specifically sit next to you.
Oh, right,
We
right.
do spend a lot of time
Yeah.
together.
But may as well like cut
Yeah.
out the commute time, right?
Yeah, exactly. That
Like
that
this,
room's the
this room. It's a good 20 seconds away
yeah,
from mine.
exactly. Give a bit of context. Like that room's the furthest like the furthest room from Justin's room.
Yeah.
Even Carrie's closer.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah, so yeah, like we do spend a lot of time together, and I'd say like I don't really have like that many like circles around me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like the core ones that I would care about. Those
Yeah.
are the ones that I've listed there.
Yeah, and a lot of time with your girlfriend. I'd
My
imagine.
girlfriend as well. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry, I forgot about her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't actually know this. Do you spend much time with your girlfriend's friends?
That's a good question. And currently, no, surprisingly. And not really surprisingly, but I think when we first started dating, I did spend like we'd hang out as a group, and here and then, but it's still like not that frequent. I just don't even know why. I don't even know why that's the case. So, like, but I'm not saying that I have any like, bad feelings towards them, and like there are a select few that I would see myself hanging out with. Like, I mean, I'm going to New Zealand at the end of next month with my girlfriend's friends. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I feel like for me, that's something that I really value.
Mm-hmm.
Is that will I get along with like my partner's friends?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it just seems like a lot of fun to me, to be honest. It's like it's like a whole new world that you can kind of like explore. Because I guess I really enjoy meeting new people.
Yeah.
So like I've got a lot of friends of my own, and then like it feels like you get into a relationship, and then like if they're also very very social, then it's like I don't know, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, it is fun. It is fun, definitely. Like I've had a relationship in the past where I got along with a good probably like 95% of her friends, and I had a really good time just like when you go into parties and stuff, and everyone's just so social and like welcoming, and just good energy, right? It's just hard to explain what I like about someone, but when someone has good energy, like excuse me, but you can definitely just notice it, and you tend to gravitate towards them, and stuff just doesn't really go wrong, and no one's really like staunching you and stuff. So like I've definitely had a relationship in the past where I got along with a lot of her friends, which was like you said, it was definitely really fun.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna ask you about your so recently I think you mentioned earlier in the podcast, but you got diagnosed with ADHD. Was that like I don't know a surprise to you, or was how did you feel like after getting that diagnosis?
Yeah, so I got diagnosed I'd say 2 months now. It's been 2 months, about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And when I at that moment I wasn't surprised. I was like pretty convinced I had it already. But if you were to ask me, let's say 3 years ago, right, I'd be I'd be pretty shook. But then when I put the puzzle together, I'd be like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense. So just tell you a bit about my journey about like going like into like on why I decided to like seek help was that I felt very disorganized with my thoughts, and like also that work ethic thing as well. Like like I said, how my dad has such a hard work ethic. Meanwhile, I would half-ass stuff sometimes, and I wouldn't be able to adhere to like boring tasks, like stuff that I don't care about. I know that a lot of the times, right, even in like the manosphere, they're all like, do the hard work, even though you don't feel like it, right? I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And I think that the biggest catalyst was when I first started a role early this year. I first started a different role, and during onboarding, it was a very classroom style onboarding program, and none of the information was sticking. It was just so overwhelming. I had probably one or two mini mental breakdowns, and was just feeling so anxious and wasn't feeling great about myself. And I just was like, yeah, I definitely have it. Like, I highly, it's highly likely that I have it. and I just started like calling up, like I like call up different places, and I found this place, and that someone recommended, and they didn't have a booking till July, and this was in like, and when I was feeling this way, it was like late January, so like, July is a long time to wait, 6 months. So I decided to book it in anyway, and just throughout those 6 months, I was just researching symptoms and looking at like Reddit posts and anecdotal evidence of people discovering that they had ADHD, and like I also found like life was getting very overwhelming as well. I just started this like new corporate job, and stuff was just like way too overwhelming for me, and it just and I felt like I would procrastinate a lot of things as well, which like it wasn't a good look for me. And not only just in my professional life, even in my personal life, there would be like other symptoms which I didn't know people with ADHD had. Right? Like I think pop culture or media does always does a very poor job of shining light on something. Like they always make something like look bad, right? So with ADHD, they make it seem like these people just can't focus and they're just hyperactive all the time, right? But that's not always the case. Or when it comes to like software engineers, they think, or like hackers, they just think it's just some guy like just smashing a keyboard like super loud and just like getting into stuff, right? Like that's not really the case in real life. So I feel like media and pop culture put a very negative light on ADHD. So I always just thought that, yeah, if I had ADHD, I'd be like, I wouldn't be able to sit on my seat. I'd be just like, you'd say something to me and go in one ear, come out the other. Like that's not always the case for me, right? And after just doing a bit of research into like the negative traits that I had, like I'd underestimate the amount of time I had. So poor perception of time, disorganized, inability to focus on things that I'm not interested about, and like a lot of these things aligned with people's stories online, and I was pretty convinced already. And so it was just a waiting game. And when I waited and he told me, I was like, I knew it. So
Half of the course.
yeah.
Interesting. So it didn't really affect you emotionally like too much. It doesn't sound like.
No. It's definitely not a bad. Like I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. I mean, it's kind of shit. Like I can't like focus on certain things, right, without anything extrinsic, right, without taking medication or other factors or other things that I'd have to like put in my life that normal people don't have to do. But at the same time, I wouldn't say it's like something that I'm ashamed of. Yeah.
Do you feel like, because I think I can't confirm, but I vaguely remember that ADHD like diagnoses are on the rise. Do you think it's just more people are like realizing are actually being diagnosed correctly that they have ADHD, or do you think there's something culturally going on that's causing more people to have ADHD?
Personally, I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Because like neuroscience and ADHD in general, it's such a new area of study. Neurologists and like brain scientists, like they're babies compared to like cardiovascular surgeons and stuff, right? They're seen as like the baby. It's a very, very new practice, and because it's just so hard to like learn about the brain, there's just like so many different circuits and stuff. So like, yes, I think it's just more and more research is coming out, and just with like with like an easy access to information nowadays on with a like click of the thumb, you can find out what certain things you may have due to the symptoms that you have. And I think more and more people are just like realizing that, and information is much more readily available compared to, let's say, 10 to 15 years ago. Along with, there's also another problem as well, where I feel that a lot of kids and even kids, adolescents, and even adults, they're inducing ADHD on themselves due to the environment that we're living in, because everything, like I said earlier, everything's so accessible on the palm of your hands, right? And like, I'm sure like a good 90% of us, 99% of us have gotten into that rabbit hole of just scrolling on, whether it's Instagram, TikTok's probably like the worst one, TikTok, or like YouTube Shorts, and just like scrolling all day. If it's not social media, there might be Netflix, and just just instant, like just having that instant gratification, and just slowly chipping away at your brain's capability, and sort of inducing ADHD on yourself. So I think just the modern world, the way it's built, and it's causing that, and there's no way to avoid it, right? Like I'm not against innovation and technological advancement, but there should be strategies to like reduce the effects, the negative effects of that onto your brain, and reduce the likelihood of someone developing ADHD.
Do you feel like so we talked about like mindfulness earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like meditation helps with this at all?
I can't speak for everyone, but anecdotally, it's helped me it's helped me be a lot more grounded with my thoughts, and I think that was a problem that I always had as well. Like I just think about a bunch of random stuff, and I guess that's what stopped me from focusing as well. I just have all these other things that I'd be thinking about, and I think it does help when in certain parts of my life, in terms of like the ADHD's negative effects. It helps mitigate some of that, and I think everyone should definitely try to meditate, and because being able to sit still for even 5 minutes is so hard for someone to do nowadays, right? Sit still and do nothing. It's just so hard, and that just helps with your patience and being able to adhere to boring tasks.
I distinctly remember back in like primary school and high school, during the school holidays,
Mm-hmm.
I would be bored. Like I sit there and like I'm at home. Like, there's literally like nothing to do. Like, I'm really bored. I don't think I've felt that feeling in like many, many years. And
Right.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe it just comes with the freedoms of like being an adult. I can, like,
Mhm.
if I'm bored, I can do something, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like maybe even the kids nowadays, there's so much on the internet that they can never really like be bored.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's like related to, I guess.
I definitely agree. Yeah, it's just I don't remember feeling like extremely bored during the holidays, but there were those periods where like crap, like there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, it's been a very good podcast. Thank
Yeah.
you for coming on, Lawrence. I hope
Yeah.
you enjoyed it as well.
Yep, I did enjoy. I did this first ever podcast, debut podcast. I hope to be on a future one sometime in the future.
I think you should start your own podcast. I don't know. Like we've briefly talked about
Yeah,
this before.
we
but
did.
Yeah. Like what do you think?
I really don't know. Like I do want to start my own, and it's I'm not gonna lie. Like it's definitely been a sometimes even intrusive thought when I'm listening to podcasts. I'm like, I could do this, but I just don't know what I would talk about. I think that's the biggest thing that's holding me back, was just like what I should talk about on the podcast. And like maybe you'll see, and then maybe Justin will be on my podcast.
Yes, sir. Would love to.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.